Have you ever crossed paths with someone who just seems to rub you the wrong way? The kind where their presence alone tightens your chest, and every word they say feels like a subtle push, stirring up frustration you didn't even know was there. It's a common thread in life, one I've woven through my own years. Whether it's a coworker who questions every decision, a family member who nitpicks endlessly, or even a casual acquaintance whose habits grate on your nerves, these encounters can leave you drained, questioning why they get under your skin so easily. I remember a time in my life when I let these moments define my days. Back when I was running a small business, there was this supplier who'd always show up late, make excuses, and act like it was no big deal. I'd feel the heat rising, my voice sharpening as I'd lay into him about responsibility and time. By the end of it, I'd walk away feeling justified, but exhausted. My mind replaying the exchange for hours, stealing peace from the rest of my day. It wasn't just about the delay, it was how it made me feel small, out of control. And looking back, I see now that this wasn't unique to me. We all have those triggers rooted in our expectations of how others should behave, and when they don't match, it sparks a chain reaction inside us. People often act this way because they're wrapped up in their own worlds, dealing with pressures we can't see, like hidden burdens or past hurts that shape their responses. Maybe they're insecure or stressed from something unrelated, and it spills over. But the real cost comes to us. We end up carrying that weight, letting it erode our focus, our relationships, even our health over time. I've seen it lead to sleepless nights, strained conversations at home, and a general weariness that dims the joy in everyday things. It's like handing over the reins of your well-being to someone who doesn't even know they're holding them. The turning point for me came from reflecting on principles passed down through generations in my heritage. Ideas about self-mastery and inner steadiness that have stood the test of time. It's not about changing the world around you, but choosing how you stand in it. The core lesson is this: true strength lies in deciding your response, not in matching the energy thrown at you. When you pause and recognize that their actions reflect their inner state, not your worth, you reclaim your power. It's a quiet shift, but profound, one that turns potential conflicts into opportunities for growth. There was an older man I knew years ago, a quiet neighbor who ran a little repair shop down the street. His name was Samuel, and people came from all over because he could fix just about anything. Watches, radios, even old furniture that others had given up on. But what stood out more than his skill was how steady he remained, no matter who walked through his door. Angry customers, impatient ones, folks who argued over prices, he'd listen, nod, and respond in the same even tone. I was younger then, full of opinions and quick to defend them, so one day I asked him how he managed it. He wiped his hands on a rag, looked up, and said something simple. "Son, nobody can hand you their storm and make it yours unless you reach out and take it." That stuck with me, though I didn't fully grasp it at the time. I kept watching him. There was this one regular customer, a loud guy who'd come in complaining about everything, the weather, the traffic, the way the world was going. He'd raise his voice, point fingers, demand things be done faster, cheaper. Most people would have pushed back or shut down. Samuel just kept working, asking quiet questions, giving the man space to vent. And more often than not, that same customer would leave calmer, sometimes even apologizing on his way out. It wasn't magic, it was choice. What I've come to understand over the years is that irritation doesn't start with the other person. It starts with what we decide their behavior means about us. We take it personally, as if their shortness or criticism is a judgment on our value. But most of the time it's not. It's their own unrest finding a place to land. They're hurried, wounded, afraid of looking weak, or just carrying a load we can't see. And when we react in kind, we step into their chaos instead of staying grounded in our own clarity. The deeper cost is what it does to us. Each time we let someone pull us into anger or defensiveness, we give away a piece of our day, our energy, our peace. It lingers on the drive home, at the dinner table, in the quiet moments before sleep. We replay it, justify it, feel righteous about it, but underneath, there's a heaviness. I've lived that. There were years when I'd come home tight-jawed from arguments I thought I'd won, only to realize the victory was hollow. The real loss wasn't the point I failed to make. It was the calm I surrendered. The principle that changed things for me is one rooted in old wisdom. Your peace isn't dependent on others behaving better. It's dependent on you deciding what you're willing to carry. You don't have to accept every emotion offered to you. You can observe it, acknowledge it, and let it pass without claiming ownership. It's not ignoring the issue or pretending everything's fine. It's refusing to let someone else's turbulence become your compass. Over time, I started applying this in my own life, bit by bit. It wasn't an overnight transformation, more like building a habit, one small choice at a time. Take, for instance, dealing with a pushy relative who always seemed to know better about everything from how I raised my kids to what I should eat for breakfast. In the past, I'd counter every suggestion with reasons why it wouldn't work, turning family gatherings into battlegrounds. We'd both end up frustrated, the air thick with unspoken resentment. But then I tried something different. I'd listen without interrupting, nod to show I heard them, and respond with a gentle deflection like, "I appreciate you looking out for me. I'll think on that." No arguments, no defenses, just acknowledgement. And slowly, those conversations lost their edge. The relative didn't change, but the tension between us did. Why do we fall into these patterns? Often, it's because we fear losing ground. If we don't push back, we think we're admitting defeat or letting someone overstep. But reacting that way only amplifies the problem, creating a cycle where everyone's defenses go up higher. The fallout? Relationships suffer, trust erodes, and we walk away feeling more isolated than before. I've watched friends drift apart over petty disagreements that started small but grew because neither side could let go. It's a heavy price for something as fleeting as being right in the moment. The wisdom here is to see beyond the surface. That difficult person might be acting out of their own unresolved issues, loneliness, anxiety, or a need to feel in control. When we respond with patience instead of fire, we break the pattern. It's not about being passive, it's about being deliberate. You choose to protect your inner balance, recognizing that their storm doesn't have to become yours. This approach has saved me countless hours of regret. Instead of stewing over what I should have said, I focus on what matters, moving forward with clarity. One practical way to build this is through what I call the breath bridge, that brief pause before you speak or act. In heated moments, it gives you space to ask, is this worth my energy? Will my response help or just add fuel? More often than not, stepping back reveals that the issue isn't as big as it feels in the heat. I've used this in traffic jams, when a driver cuts me off and my first impulse is to honk or gesture. Instead, I breathe, remind myself they're probably just hurried like everyone else, and let it go. The result? I arrive at my destination steady, not rattled. This mindset shift also reshaped how I handled everyday annoyances, like those random encounters in public that can sour a whole afternoon. Picture this. You're at the grocery store, and the person ahead of you in line is fumbling with coupons, chatting endlessly with the cashier, oblivious to the growing queue behind them. Your mind starts racing. Why can't they hurry? Don't they see everyone's waiting? In my earlier days, I'd sigh loudly, shift my weight, maybe mutter something under my breath, letting impatience build until it colored my mood for hours. But these days, I use it as a quiet exercise in perspective. I remind myself that maybe they're elderly, dealing with loneliness, or just having a rough day where a simple conversation is a bright spot. That small reframing turns frustration into empathy, and suddenly, the wait doesn't feel like a personal affront. We slip into these reactions because it's human nature to assume the world revolves around our timeline, our needs. When it doesn't, we feel slighted, as if the universe is conspiring against us. But the truth is, most of these moments are neutral. It's our interpretation that loads them with negativity. The consequences? We carry that bitterness forward, snapping at the next innocent person or letting it distract us from what truly matters. I've lost count of how many good evenings were ruined by holding on to a minor irritation from earlier, only to realize later it wasn't worth the mental space. The enduring lesson from all this is that peace is a practice, not a destination. It's forged in the ordinary, through consistent choices to respond rather than react. You cultivate it by noticing your triggers and gently steering away from them, understanding that every person you meet is navigating their own unseen battles. This doesn't mean you become a doormat or ignore real problems. It means you address them from a place of steadiness, where your words carry weight without the baggage of emotion. In my experience, this has led to unexpected ripple effects. Friends and colleagues started seeking me out for advice, not because I had all the answers, but because being around someone unshaken feels reassuring. It builds trust, opens doors to deeper connections, and even diffuses potential escalations before they start. One time, during a heated community meeting about neighborhood changes, voices were rising, accusations flying. I waited, then spoke calmly about common ground we all shared. The room quieted. People listened. It wasn't about winning the debate. It was about guiding it toward resolution. Looking back, the real beauty of this approach is how it frees you up to enjoy life more fully. Without the constant drag of unresolved frustrations, there's room for gratitude, for noticing the small graces that slip by when you're caught in negativity. I think of mornings now, starting the day not with a list of potential aggravations, but with a quiet affirmation. Today, I hold my own ground. It's a subtle ritual, but it sets the tone, reminding me that while I can't control others, I can steer my own ship. People often ask if this means suppressing feelings, bottling them up until they explode. Not at all. It's about feeling them fully, but not letting them dictate your actions. Acknowledge the annoyance. It's valid. But then decide if it's worth amplifying. In my line of work, I've dealt with clients who changed their minds mid-project, derailing plans and timelines. Once, I'd stew over it, questioning their judgment. Now, I see it as part of the human element. They're uncertain, perhaps second-guessing themselves. So I respond with questions that clarify, not accusations that divide. The outcome? Smoother collaborations, stronger results, and less personal toll. We chase this because deep down, we know the alternative wears us thin. Chronic irritation isn't just mental, it's physical, raising stress levels, disrupting sleep, even straining the heart over years. I've known folks who let it define them, becoming guarded, quick to assume the worst in others. Their world shrinks, opportunities fade, all because they couldn't loosen the grip of reactivity. It's a quiet tragedy, one choice at a time, leading to a life half lived. The timeless truth here is that your response shapes your reality more than the event itself. By choosing composure, you invite better into your space, calmer interactions, deeper insights, a sense of agency that no one can take. It's like tending a garden. Weed out the reactive impulses, nurture patience, and watch resilience grow. This has been my path, tested through decades, and it's one I share because I've seen it work, not just for me, but for those who've tried it. As the years have added up, I've come to see this inner steadiness, not as some distant ideal, but as the quiet foundation of a life well lived. It's what allows you to weather losses, celebrate wins, and meet each new day without the residue of yesterday's battles weighing you down. I've watched people chase success, bigger houses, titles, recognition, only to find that none of it quiets the restlessness inside if they've never learned to settle their own spirit. On the other hand, I've known ordinary folks with modest means who radiate a kind of contentment that's almost tangible, simply because they've chosen not to let the world's friction grind them away. The consequences of living the other way are clearer now than ever. When we hand our peace over to every slight, every delay, every disagreement, we end up fragmented, scattered across 1,000 minor conflicts, never fully present where we are. Relationships fray, health fades, and time slips by in a haze of reactivity. But when you make the opposite choice, day after day, something remarkable happens. The world doesn't necessarily get kinder, but it feels less hostile. You move through it with a lighter step, noticing beauty amid the noise, connecting with people on a level that defensiveness never allows. The principle that ties it all together is straightforward, yet it demands everything. Your peace is yours to guard. No one can steal it without your permission, and no circumstance can destroy it if you refuse to abandon it. This isn't about perfection. There are still days when old habits flare, when fatigue or surprise catches me off guard. But the difference is recovery. I notice sooner, return faster, and carry less regret. That's the real measure of growth, not never falling, but rising with less baggage each time. In the end, this is the legacy I hope to leave behind, the same one passed to me through quiet examples and hard-won lessons, a life marked not by how fiercely we fought every battle, but by how wisely we chose which ones mattered. When you stand firm in your own calm, you offer something rare to everyone around you, an unspoken invitation to lay down their weapons too. And in a world that's quick to shout, that kind of presence is a gift beyond measure. Hold on to it. It's the one thing no one can take, and the one thing that makes everything else possible.